Right,
Yeah.
juggling all of that, achieving what you did, and then, someone, an older woman, your grandmother,
Yeah.
being so proud of you and framing that. What would it mean to you to get the documents back
Um, well, the documents,
and the
yeah,
frames back?
yeah, and the
Yeah.
frames, it would mean the world to me because they're obviously the original ones. And when you go to reorder the certificates, they just say these are not duplicate certificates. They'll look the same, but
But you'll know.
I'll know. But
Yeah.
it would mean a lot to me to get those frames back. Yeah.
Oh, what a story. So if somebody's listening, and I hope they are, and if they want to reach out to you, Maureen, or what's the best way, I guess, should they reach out to us? What's the best way if somebody does find your diploma or certificate, or maybe if they realize that they bought this at the restore and maybe they could make a return? How should they reach you?
Well, I'd say Facebook definitely works.
Okay. Okay.
'Cause I was reached out through Messenger, and so if they want to reach out to me, Maureen Terra on Facebook, or they can call into my office as well if they want to do the phone call.
Good luck getting these documents back.
Thank you so much. I
Yeah,
appreciate that.
I really, really hope they all come back to you. Thanks for coming in this morning, sharing your
You're
story.
welcome. Thank you.
Maureen Terra, so MaureenTerra on Facebook, if you want to DM her, if you happen to find those documents. Winnipeg Lawyer is trying to get her diplomas and certificates and the frames back after a mix-up. It's common. Do you have a story? What have you given away by accident? Those donation boxes, 788-3205. Next on the show, a bit of music as we're getting ready to celebrate harvesting hope. Make the season kind, coming up on Friday in support of Harvest Manitoba. This is Aaron Propp and Larry Hua, who are going to be on our morning show with live music on Friday morning as we celebrate the day and lean into the needs of hunger in Manitoba. But on Friday morning, you'll be hearing them perform live right here on Information Radio as our day of Making the Season Kind kicks off. And that will be running all day long on all of our CBC platforms, coming together to raise money and to learn more about the needs in Manitoba, supporting Harvest Manitoba and all of its food bank partners and programs across the province. In addition to Aaron Propp and Larry Hua, this tune called We All Want the Same Things, by the way. We also are excited to welcome the Meadows West School Choir, representatives from the school. They're going to be here singing with us as well. On Radio Noon, Madeline Roger will perform, and Up to Speed has Son of Dave and Fontaine. We're going to get to sports now with Scott Regehr. Hello.
Got me in. I'm looking forward to Friday, one of the best days of the year, of course, but the Jazz on Friday evenings. I think I've just added one to my playlist after hearing that. That was
right?
lovely.
Yeah, they are lovely. I'm excited to have them in live. You're here to talk sports. Let's talk football. The Bombers could be about to lose a coach to their biggest rivals. This is huge news.
Yeah, Three Down Nation's reporting, Marcy, that Buck Pierce, the offensive coordinator with the Bombers, is one of the two candidates on the shortest of shortlists for the Saskatchewan Roughriders head coaching job. The other candidate said to be Toronto Argonauts defensive coordinator Corey Mace. But if it is indeed Pierce that Saskatchewan goes with, the Bombers are going to lose a coach that's been with them for a long time, since 2014. He's been part of Mike O'Shea's staff. Pierce started as a running backs coach, then was promoted to quarterbacks coach, and obviously now is the offensive coordinator, where he's worked not miracles, but he's done a great job. They've had an excellent offense over the past few years. So Mike O'Shea, a good friend of Buck Pierce's, not just a colleague, was asked about the prospects of Pierce leaving.
You bank on change, and then when it doesn't, you feel good, and you make those quick phone calls back and say, hey, listen, everything's status quo here now. So, but you bank on some change. I want whatever's best for Buck and his family, really.
There you are. Mike O'Shea's thoughts on the potential of Buck Pierce heading west.
I hope he doesn't leave. He's been great in that position. Yes. That's just me and my opinion with it. But let's go to hockey. It was an eventful night for Canadian NHL teams last night.
Yeah, Calgary's been very good of late. The Flames beat the defending Stanley Cup champions, the Vegas Golden Knights, in overtime 2-1 last night. And then you have what took place in the nation's capital. Ottawa got thumped, figuratively and literally, by the Florida Panthers 5-0, a fight-filled affair that led referee Gary Rank, Marcy, to make this most unique of calls.
Every player on the ice has a 10-minute misconduct.
And I don't remember the last time I saw 10-minute misconduct handed out to everybody.
I thought he gave me one there.
Yeah. Paul Maurice is counting how many are on the bench here.
Unsurprisingly, the rabble-rousing Tkachuk brothers, Marcy, were at the heart of things. Matthew of the Panthers delivered a questionable hit on an Ottawa player, and that led to Brady of the Senators taking swings at every opponent that was not his older brother. Their grandma Geraldine was seen in the crowd, and she looked mortified with the mayhem. Florida coach Paul Maurice, though, not so mortified.
Oh, it's just a hockey game. You know, both teams want to win, and you get a little snarly, and that was fun. It was good. Sometimes hockey can get like that. That's part of why the game's so darn great, because it's graceful and beautiful and physical and angry all at the same time. So it was good.
I miss Paul Maurice.
Me too.
He'll be he always got something interesting to say. The Panthers will be back at it tonight in Toronto. The Jets, Maurice's former team, of course, they'll play at home to the Dallas Stars, a Central Division battle, and had Laurent Brossoit not had a tough outing in the last game against Nashville, we could be talking about the Jets on a 6-game winning streak at the moment, so we'll see what happens against the Stars.
And quick before you go, a big honor for Canada's biggest soccer star.
Yeah, Christine Sinclair will play her final game for her country a week from today, Marcy. She'll suit up for Canada in a friendly against Australia in her hometown of Vancouver. More than 40,000 tickets have already been sold for the farewell match at BC Place. Or should I say Christine Sinclair Place. For that night only, that's what the stadium will be renamed. I just think they should do it on a more permanent basis.
Thank you, Scott.
You bet.
That is Scott Regehr with Morning Sports. Still ahead, he's a local acting legend. He'll be imparting some wisdom today to the Indigenous law students in Manitoba, a class of them. Adam Beach is the guest speaker. He's back in Winnipeg to do this, and he'll be in studio after your CBC Winnipeg News.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 7:30, it is -10 still in downtown Winnipeg, but get set to warm up. And it's going to be a windy warm up. We're expecting this southerly wind to switch to northwesterly, a high this afternoon of 2. We are learning more about two sisters killed in a mass shooting this past weekend. Crystal and Stephanie Beardy were both members of Lake St. Martin First Nation. They were among 5 people shot at a rooming house on Langside Street on Sunday. Lake St. Martin Chief Christopher Travers is the family spokesperson. He says the mother of the 2 women killed works in the band office.
That family in particular, they have a lot of death in their family. Right, lots of people died in that family. This is not her first daughter that passed away. This is her fourth daughter.
Travers says the family had been displaced by flooding that devastated Lake St. Martin in 2011. Police have identified 2 others who died in that shooting, Melalek Lisakal, who has family in the U.S. and Kenya, and Dylan Lavallee of Winnipeg. A 5th victim remains in hospital. Police have not named him. They have also not named any suspects in the shooting. Richard Fulham owns the company that owns the 6-suite rooming house on Langside where that shooting happened.
I don't know who these people were that got killed. I don't know the circumstances, and I don't know why they were in my house. I don't know. I simply don't know.
Fulham says he and his wife feel horrible about what happened. As for the other tenants of the building, Fulham says for now they'll have to find somewhere else to stay while police investigate the crime scene. The Union for Winnipeg Transit Workers has set a strike deadline for December 11th. The collective bargaining agreement for more than 1,400 unionized workers expired back in January. On Friday, the workers rejected a tentative agreement for a second time. The city's chief administrative officer, Michael Jack, says that leaves negotiations in limbo. Chris Scott at the Amalgamated Transit Union says Winnipeg transit workers want the city to improve working and safety conditions for bus operators. People in St. Teresa Point First Nation are struggling this winter to feed their families. A 3-day power outage in October resulted in many in the fly-in community losing their groceries and harvested meat they had stored in their freezers for the winter. CBC's Erin Broman reports.
Okay, thank you. Esther Ann Mason fills a box with rice and frozen vegetables. It's her monthly visit to a pop-up food bank.
Yeah, it helps. You don't know the high cost of food over here.
She built a fire outside to keep her 8 grandkids warm and fed during the power outage. But she couldn't save what was in her freezer.
Steaks, chicken, ground beef.
The food bank is the result of a partnership between the Island Lake Tribal Council and Harvest Manitoba. Clarence Mason is with the Tribal Council.
I don't call it a handout, I call it a crisis, food security crisis.
The food bank now gets the same federal shipping subsidy that the Northern Store gets on some foods. But it's something Mason would rather not have to rely on.
I'm angry for the others who are destitute. I'm sure they harvested lots of berries, wild meat, and they all went to waste.
She says if she could, she'd reimburse her community for what they lost. Erin Broman, CBC News, St. Teresa Point First Nation.
The release of hostages and prisoners can continue for another 2 days as the pause in fighting between Israel and Hamas has been extended. And the shipment of emergency aid into Gaza can continue as well. But the United Nations says that aid will only get so far unless another distribution corridor is reopened. 4 former U.S. First Ladies are going to be among those in Atlanta today for the funeral of Rosalind Carter. Carter died earlier this month at the age of 96. 3 days of events and memorials are planned to celebrate her lifetime commitment to public service. Her husband, former U.S. President Jimmy Carter, is expected to attend some, but not all, events. At the age of 99, he is in poor health. You can hear more national and international news coming up on World Report at 8. The city of Winnipeg is denying it is legally responsible for the injuries of a boy who fell from an elevated walkway at Fort Gibraltar earlier this year. The boy's parents filed a lawsuit in August against the city and Festival du Voyageur, which runs the city-owned site. They say their son fractured his hip and wrist and is at risk of being permanently disabled. The parents accused the city and Festival of negligence for failing to take precautions. The city says it didn't have control over the property's condition or the people allowed to use it. The walkway collapsed while a group of 10 and 11-year-old students from St. John's Ravenscourt School were on a field trip to the site in May. And business leaders in Winnipeg say they support a statutory holiday for Orange Shirt Day under certain conditions. The NDP government plans to make September 30th a provincial stat. The head of the Winnipeg Chamber of Commerce says 70% of his members support the idea, but Lauren Remillard says it should be a day to learn more about the harms caused by residential schools.
If it is designed in a way to merely say it is a statutory day and that is that, and if it falls on a weekend, for example, there's a day in lieu of, it seems to then lessen what is the ultimate objective, and that's that discussion.
Remillard hopes to meet soon with the government to get more details of the plan. You can find more news updated throughout the day. You just have to go to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
All right, thanks, Heather.
You're welcome.
So just to mention, because we had this interview right before the news about someone that accidentally donated all her diplomas when she was, they mixed up the boxes and sent them to the restore.
Unreal.
So if you have a story about what you've given away by accident, I want to hear that, right? And then hopefully you got it back and it doesn't all end sad. But 788-3205. You can write to us on Facebook too if you want.
I'd be curious to know what
Do you
people
have anything? Did you ever do that?
I do. I just realized it on the weekend. Okay, I'm going to geek out for a second here.
Okay, go.
I sold some car parts a couple of months ago because I have this hobby you might know, Marcy. And in this box of car parts were brand new, what are called NOS, new old stock, emblems for my 71 Barracuda.
Ooh.
And I realized, oh my God, I sold those and they're worth $60-$70.
You threw out something rare.
Well, I mean, in a whole whack of stuff. And I'm like, why did I do that? I need those. So
Adam Beach is in studio. Yeah, Adam Beach is in studio. He's listening to you. Let's throw on Adam's mic. Have you ever done this? I saw you react to Pat's story, Adam Beach. You were like, what?
Dude, I had a 72 Camaro, and the most important thing on this Camaro were the door handles.
Of course.
Oh, yeah.
And it had the Camaro logo. It was just beautiful. And when I took it into a Camaro shop, the guy who collects Camaros was like, oh my God, I've never seen these. I've heard of them. That's the most valuable thing in your car. And when I sold the car, I forgot to take them off.
Oh.
Yeah, so.
Well, at least you didn't donate them. Did you ever get them back, these emblems you donated?
Oh, no, I just realized on the weekend, so I might phone my friend that I sold them to. I like this 7:37 in the morning information radio. It's Car Talk with Pat and Adam. This is fun.
Okay, we actually have other things to get through. You're supposed to be doing weather.
Oh, yeah, weather. Okay. Well, speaking of cars, let's give the traffic line right now, 788-3093. It has been a quiet morning out there, not hearing about stalls, fender benders, lights out, anything like that, train delays. If there is something, though, give me a call at our traffic and commuting line at 788-3093. As far as the weather goes, well, the Pembina Valley and Red River Valley was pretty clear an hour ago, but it's clouded over. A ton of cloud over the province. I'm looking at satellite imagery right now. Some snow flurries right up around Gimli right now. And let's see, just east of Dauphin as well, and a lot of thick cloud and some snow in that southeast corner possibly. We expect to be cloudy today, but the temps are pretty mild. We're at -10 right now, on the way to a +2, though. It's going to be breezy this morning. South winds 20 to 30 by this afternoon. They switch. They come from the northwest, always cooler from the northwest, 30 to 40 this afternoon as far as the speed, but we'll have that +2. Tonight dipping down to only a -5, and tomorrow mix of sun and cloud with a +2. We switch to -2s for Thursday and Friday. That's what the peg is looking like for the next few days. Brandon, -5 right now, on the way to a +2. Gusty winds as well to 50 this morning. From the west, we're going to see clouds. We expect to see mostly cloudy skies today over Brandon. And then tonight dipping down to a -5 again, pretty mild. Tomorrow, another +2, but gusty winds again with a mix of sun and cloud. Let's go up north to Thompson, up Highway 6, where it's -18 right now with a few flurries kicking around. Could see 2 to 4 centimeters of snow today, but warming up to a -8. And then tonight, periods of snow, maybe another couple of centimeters, and a low of -16. Tomorrow, though, cloudy and a high of -14. We have plus temperatures in many places today, Marcy. Dauphin Parkland's going to see a +3. It's -2 and cloudy right now. A +2 in Pilot Mound, Crystal City area as well, -7 right now. +1s in Steinbach, Verdon, and Pinawa. Pinawa is -13 right now. Steinbach is -10, and Verdon is a -10 as well. And quick mention, it is a chilly one in in Churchill this morning, -28 on the way to a -20. Flin Flon the Paw, -9, -8 on the way to zeros today. So that's what is happening in traffic, or in weather, I should say. -10 in the downtown. Sun rises in just a few minutes at 7:59 and sets at 4:33. These short days right now, Marcy.
All right, thanks, Pat.
Thank you.
It is 20 to 8 right now, and let's properly introduce Adam Beach. A lot of you know Adam Beach in Manitoba. Anishinaabe Saulteaux actor known far and wide for his roles in Hollywood movies and on TV. If you go way back, Dance Me Outside, remember? TV's North of 60. Major Tinseltown films, Wind Talkers, Flags of Our Fathers, Cowboys and Aliens, my personal, one of my favorites that I just love on a Saturday afternoon to put on and kick my feet up and watch and have a good smile. Adam Beach was born in Manitoba, of course, deep ties to Winnipeg's West End, but also to Dog Creek Reserve near Lake Manitoba. Beach now calls Las Vegas home. I hope I'm still right with that. But as you heard, he's in Winnipeg today and in studio and going to be speaking to the Manitoba Indigenous Law Students Association. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you very much, Marcy.
You've been doing a lot of speaking, right? Specifically to different young people across Canada, in fact. Tell me a little bit about that, some of that work you're doing now.
Well, when I was younger in my 20s, there's this excitement of the movies I do. So I would, visit communities and kind of inspire them. And then over the years, I realized that, I guess what I talk about now is how we as Native people have normalized trauma. And we have to figure out how to get out of that. Because if we're going to put us in a situation where we're stuck and we don't want to get out of it because we're used to that stucky feeling, then we're not going to, heal. We're not going to, help the next generation. So that's kind of where I'm at now.
Tell me what you mean when you say normalized trauma, where you see examples of that.
Take, for instance, when I was 14, I decided I'm going to go live on my own. So I ended up living with a couple of heroin addicts who took care of me. They were in their 30s. And for me, being around watching them in their drug use and kind of being around their friends, it was very normal to me. And they were Native, and I grew up in alcoholic family background, and I was not fortunate enough, but I mean, when my parents died, it took me out of this element of trauma. And my whole life, it's been almost like a survival instinct. And even today, when I go to therapy, they have to remind me, Adam, you're not in survival mode anymore. That's not you. You're a movie star. And I'm like, oh my God, what the heck's going on? Why do I think like this, that I still have to survive on the streets? And that's normalizing trauma.
It wires one's brain, right?
Yeah.
And then you kind of learn as you get older. I'm like 49 now, and I find that what I'm learning is what that means. And I think that it almost, when you become older, is you kind of start going through your childhood again in your head, whether you plan to do that or not.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, I get that. Tell me a little bit about talking to Indigenous law students specifically, how this group, will law be part of the conversation today in any way?
I think with Indigenous law, the quote I gave them was, it's all about our identity. And if we lose the identity, we lose our place as law-abiding citizens, basically. There are rules that the government has, and it's like if you're not hunting, if you don't speak your language, or you're not enjoying the culture, you're not Indian anymore. So they've already tagged us, and it's almost like, over the last 200 years, they've been trying to assimilate and eradicate this idea of what an Indian is so they can become citizens, etc. And it's like in 1982, we were part of the Constitution Act where they said, you're right, you guys are sovereign, and it's like, okay, that was in 82. I was born in 72, so we still have a lot to go down the road. And right now, there's so much money being released for residential schools, Jordan Principle, etc., land claims, etc. And when you put a market or a dollar figure for the whole world to see, we're going to invest $3 billion into communities. One, you're going to have lawyers who are non-Indigenous who know how to get that money and who have taken a percentage in illegal ways because of that money's there. And also it sends a message to drug addicts, drug users, to bring in these items to communities. How are you going to stop this? And it's all a legal effect that takes precedence. And I'm hoping these young law students that are coming out can actually, open their heart for change and not just have a monetary value attached to everything. You can have change and a monetary value, but then there's a monetary value that has to stop. Like about 7-8 years ago, I was offered $98.4 million to be the spokesperson for native oil in Canada, and that's against everything I believe in because I'm a pipe carrier. I've been traditional for a long time now. And I just laughed and said no, and said, you don't really know who I am, do you? But let's enjoy this dinner. And they bought me at a charity. And these are those examples of monetary values and everything. You know, I'd never sell my soul for anything.
What gives you hope in Manitoba? Obviously, you haven't, lived here like daily in a long time, but your roots are still here. You come back here frequently enough and know the community. And so you've watched it change too, right? Ebb and flow. And right now, lots of struggle out there, but some hope.
Yeah.
Where do you see hope here in this province now?
Well, the hope for me right now is Wab Kinew. Wab Kinew married...
The new premier?
Yeah, he's the new premier, and he's related through marriage through my cousin Lisa, who's a doctor. And I found myself in this place where I have never would have thought a Native person would have a leadership in position. The farthest would probably be AFN, the negotiating table for all communities. And I had to take a step back and realize that, I'm in this trauma phase, normalizing trauma, that I would never see this. Now that I've seen it, his position has changed my whole overall outlook of where I belong in my identity. So my focus now is Manitoba. My focus now is my community. My focus now is healing. And I want to reach all these communities to find out what I can do. Wab's a busy man right now. And his position, he's making changes in the upper table.
So him being elected, actually, even though you've had, as you obviously, such success in your own life and momentum in your own life, and you have inspired a lot of people, and you continue to go across and do that giving work, both culturally and also motivationally, as you're speaking to students all over Canada and all over the place. Even still, that election of him spoke to you in a different way.
Yeah, dream big, dream bigger. And his next position is Prime Minister. I don't know if he's going to go there, but for the first time in my life, I see the picture of a future Prime Minister. Whether it's him or not, I can see a Native man, a Native woman in that position. It's unbelievable what changed in my whole mindset.
Before you go this morning, because there's never enough time to have these conversations, but do you have anything else coming up that you're working on that you wanted to talk about that is, really important to the fabric of where you're going with your own life?
Yeah, well, right, like today, it's the 28th of November. My Aunt Elaine Mayhem her birthday's today.
Oh!
And I gave a celebrated birthday out to all my other uncles and aunts, and I forgot her.
Well, we can do that for you for sure. So go ahead.
Elaine, happy birthday! I'm here, and I'm gonna find you at home. I don't know if you're listening, but I'm gonna bring you a cake. I'm gonna sing you a song because I sent songs to my aunts and uncles. And
I love that.
Yeah,
I love that.
But other than that, I'm just.
Do you want to sing now before you go?
Elaine, happy birthday to you. I love you. And I'll see you real soon.
Adam Beach, always lovely to have you back here in Manitoba. It's clear that you've, not only not forgotten where you started from, but also that you're still very much connected to this place.
Yeah, Manitoba is beautiful, man. I wish people could look outside the struggles and see the foundation that's really laid here. And you don't get to see it until you visit other countries, other cities. And then when you come home, you realize what you have that's really good here.
Nice to see you. Thanks for coming in.
Pleasure's mine.
That's Adam Beach, of course, who will be having a conversation, as we mentioned, with Indigenous law students today. Everyone's welcome to attend, by the way. It's at noon in the Common Room at the Manitoba Indigenous Law Students Association over at the University of Manitoba.
There are stories you just can't stop thinking about. They take you somewhere, they introduce you to someone, they share something new with you.
Lift off.
Those are the stories you want to share with your friends, and CBC's award-winning documentary team is bringing them to you every week on Storylines. Storylines, new this season on CBC Radio 1 and always on demand on the CBC Listen app.
10 to 8 is the time right now on 89.3 FM, 990 AM, or on the app. It is -10 in the city of Winnipeg. Our high today is 2. You're listening to Information Radio right here on CBC. Well, let's get to some of the news of the day in our community. Sisters from Lake St. Martin First Nation are 2 of the 4 victims of a shooting in Winnipeg early Sunday morning. Crystal and Stephanie Beardy are their names. Their mother, Beverly Beardy, confirmed the grim news to CBC. 34-year-old Crystal was killed. She had 2 sons. She died at the scene. Her younger sister, Stephanie, was taken off life support on Sunday night. She was 33 and had 2 daughters. Christopher Travers is the chief of Lake St. Martin First Nation. He is speaking on behalf of the family. The CBC's Karen Pauls first asked him how everyone's coping.
The family right now are grieving. The mother, I know the mother personally, and she's upset, and she's grieving for her 2 children, just Crystal and Stephanie.
And I gathered that they were at the hospital last night.
Yeah, I drove in Beverly from she's part of our staff, so we had a staff retreat just this past weekend, and then the Sunday found out that her child is pronounced dead.
And the other one was in hospital.
In hospital, yeah. And
life support.
Life support. So I drove her in from Heckle Island, where we had our resort, had our staff retreat.
And it sounds like that was a very difficult time at the hospital.
Yeah.
Beverly says that the 2 girls, the 2 women, her daughters, leave behind 4 children, 2 boys and 2 girls. How are they doing, and what are the plans to take care of them now?
I think the family's going to take care of them. I don't want nothing to happen to the children, to go to care or something like that. That's something I'll stick up for, and as a community leader, that I'll protect them from that happening.
How old are they? Do you know?
They're young. There's a house full of young children where I was this afternoon.
And how does this affect your community? Like 2 people lost.
Affects our community in tremendous ways. We've been through a lot of hardship. A lot of community members have passed away since 2011. Over 200 members. So our community deals with it in certain ways, in different avenues and all aspects of death. Right? We're known for that, right? It's bad.
Well, and when you talk about 2011, you're talking about the flooding and the community destroyed and displaced, and a new community.
Yeah, and then not all the community members were able to move back. We were forced to stay here in the city, and part of this is as their members, Crystal and Stephanie, didn't have a place to come home to, right? So they're here stuck in the city, forced to stay in the city.
How much of a concern? I've spoken to community members over the years, and they really just want to get back home because they're so afraid of the city and the negative influences and the danger. How much does this strike right at the heart of all that fear?
It's just right there. It's right in the middle of everything. I know there's a lot of members that want to go home. I think over 1,000 members still stuck in the city from the 2011 flood, and it's just hardship that's happening all around every year.
Well, and as those members are away, they have children, and so more like the community away almost grows.
Yeah, it grows. We've grown 150%, like lots.
So how many do you think are living in the city now compared to back home?
We're about half. So we have 300 plus homes that are all lived in, and then I need another at least 200 houses to fulfill everyone's needs to want to come home.
Can you tell us anything about Crystal and Stephanie? What kind of ladies were they? What kind of mothers were they?
They're happy. They're happy individuals. Me personally, I seen Stephanie on the Friday, and helped her get to Winnipeg when she was leaving Lake St. Martin. Right, she was coming to Winnipeg to visit for the weekend. Normally she doesn't come to Winnipeg, and it just happened during the time coming to Winnipeg. Right.
So Stephanie lived in Lake St. Martin, but
she lived with her mom in Lake St. Martin.
But Crystal lived here.
Yeah, Crystal
Was she
lived here.
coming to visit Crystal?
No, she was just coming to visit family. There was half her family's in Winnipeg.
Okay, and what was she looking forward to this weekend? What were her
I'm not too
plans?
sure. I don't know. Maybe visiting her family. You know, she has a lot of nieces and nephews that's a big family. Right? I went to their house this afternoon, and there was just full of kids. You know, they had helped out with some food and to you know offer my condolences to them and their family, and that Chief and Council Lake St. Martin will be there, and I mean me personally will be there because I've always been there for the family.
Christopher Travers, Chief of Lake St. Martin First Nation, speaking with the CBC's Karen Pauls yesterday. 2 other victims, by the way, were also identified now, 29-year-old Melalik Lesikal and 41-year-old Dylan Lavely. A 55-year-old man is still in critical condition in hospital. Police are asking for anyone with information to reach out and contact them. If you want to read more about the sisters from Lake St. Martin and the other victims, please go to our website. Let's go to Heather Wells now for a news update.
Good morning. Well, we are hearing from the man who owns the company that owns that rooming house on Langside where the mass shooting happened. He says as far as he's aware, the victims were not his tenants. Richard Fulham says he doesn't know why they were there. He says he can't imagine the circumstances of what happened, adding he and his wife feel horrible about it. And in other news, the Union for Winnipeg Transit Workers has set a strike deadline for December 11th. The collective bargaining agreement for the more than 1,400 unionized workers expired back in January. We'll hear from the union in our next local news at 8:30.
All right, thank you, Heather.
You're welcome.
Well, one of the other stories that we've been reporting on this morning is Harvest Manitoba recently visiting St. Teresa Point First Nation, a flying community. About 4,000 people live up in that Island Lake region. Harvest Manitoba is the first food bank in Canada to get the same Federal Nutrition North subsidy received by the Northern Store. So they were able to use that and make their first trip up to the isolated area. And it came just in time because people this spring had lost a lot of food when there was a power outage. When I was up in St. Teresa Point, I talked about that with a knowledge keeper named Jackson Taylor, who's a longtime fisher in the area. He was showing me, in fact, his smoker.
It takes special wood too. You don't just use any wood. I get them from down the bank. Use a special kind of wood.
Oh, it smells good in here. It's still got that smoky flavor, right?
Yeah.
He lost fish that he'd had in a freezer, 2 deep freezers that would have lasted the whole winter. We'll find out more about that. That's coming up after 8 o'clock. By the way, our show in support of Harvest Manitoba is coming up on Friday. In addition, on the show after 8 o'clock, we'll hear from a former gang member who works in the West End who says helping at-risk youth is an important step in his recovery. He's speaking out after the latest violence on Langside Street over the weekend, just to take a wider look at what's going on in the city overall with violence. So we're going to hear from him after 8 on the show. I'm Marcy Markusa with our team at Information Radio. It's -10 right now, mostly cloudy, and a high today of 2 degrees in the city of Winnipeg. If you need us on the commute, 788-3093. Stay with us. World Report's next.
On Cue with Tom Power.
Last year, Dolly Parton was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But here's the thing. She felt like she hadn't earned the award, so now she's releasing Rockstar, her first rock album. So she'll be here to talk about making that record alongside Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr. Let it be. That's coming up on Cue, followed by Commotion with Elamine Abdel Mahmoud on CBC Radio 1, the CBC Listen app, and everywhere you get your podcasts.
The CBC News is next. Coming up in half an hour, it's The Current with Matt Galloway.
Prefab homes can come with a stigma, but some architects and urban planners say they are faster and more efficient to build and better for the environment, and that Canada should actually be building more of them. That's coming up on The Current.
This is World Report. Good morning from CBC News. I'm Marcia Young. Israel says it has received a list of at least 10 hostages expected to be freed by Hamas. In exchange, 30 Palestinians will be released from Israeli jails. And this should be another day without war. That pause in fighting will allow more aid into Gaza. But as Briar Stewart tells us, relief workers say it will be nowhere near enough.
A long line of people carrying yellow plastic jugs wait at one of the few places to get clean water in the southern city of Han Yunis. Rami El Rezik is in the crowd and says there needs to be a lasting ceasefire. People are exhausted, truly exhausted, he says. They're struggling badly to get life's basic needs. 2 extra days of pause will allow more aid to be brought in. Officials say there's a bottleneck at Egypt's Rafah crossing, slowing things down, which is why the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres is calling for Israel to reopen its crossing into southern Gaza, which has been closed since the October 7th attacks.
I am sincerely hopeful because they will facilitate the distribution and that will also facilitate the control by the Israeli side.
So far, Israel has rejected those calls. Last night, 33 Palestinians were released from Israeli jails after Hamas handed over another 11 hostages.
They took them from place to place.
Merev Raviv's cousin, Karen Munder, was part of the group freed on the first day of the exchanges. She told her they were fed rice and bread and had little contact with their captors.
They weren't with them. The room was locked, and they were by themselves.
Israel has released the names of 50 additional Palestinians, all women who could be freed from jail if more of the roughly 170 remaining hostages are returned. Briar Stewart, CBC News, Jerusalem.
Rescuers in Uttarakhand, India, say they are meters away from the workers who've been trapped in a collapsed tunnel.
By evening, we are hoping, and again I will say let's pray and hope the best.
This official is with National Highways and Infrastructure. He says it is a matter of hours before they reach the men. They have been trapped for more than 2 weeks. Several large machines have failed. Yesterday, rescuers started using hand tools to dig. A 90-centimeter wide pipe has been laid near the tunnel so the men can be pulled out. But first, rescuers need to get to the men to prepare them. Here at home in suburban Gatineau, the ground beneath one neighborhood has been claimed for mining exploration. The hundreds of people living there have just found out about the plan. This is a prospecting boom in Quebec, and demand for minerals used in electric vehicle batteries is intensifying. Alistair Steele has more.
Some 200 people pack a public meeting at a recreation complex in Gatineau to learn how the ground under their homes has been claimed for mineral exploration and potentially mining. Many, like Philippe Cochin, are worried. Under Quebec's free mining system, anyone with $75 can stake a 50-hectare claim using the province's online registry, giving them exclusive exploration rights for 3 years. Normally, urban centres like Gatineau are off limits, but when the city recently expanded its boundary, it failed to protect those areas. Patrick Levasseur is president and CEO of Beauce Goldfields. The Montreal-based company has staked 42 claims within Gatineau's city limits.
There was a time this was a rural area, and now it's urban, and Mother Nature doesn't put mineral deposits exactly where we'd like them to be.
Levasseur's company is after phosphate, a key component in some EV batteries. He points out that under Quebec law, exploration can't proceed without the landowner's written permission.
If we don't have their consent, nothing happens. Quite simple.
But groups that monitor the mining industry say the system tilts in favor of exploration over communities. Lawyer Rodrigue Turgeon speaks for Mining Watch Canada.
For the citizen of Gatineau, the only outcome that would satisfy them or reassure them is that the mining claims would be withdrawn or buyout.
The city of Gatineau has asked the province to declare its entire urban area off limits for mining exploration. Alistair Steele, CBC News, Gatineau.
It is Cabinet Day in Ottawa. We are expecting more reaction to Alberta's decision to invoke its Sovereignty Act. Premier Danielle Smith says it will allow her government to bypass Ottawa's proposed clean electricity regulations. Janice McGregor is tracking reaction in our parliamentary bureau. And Janice, are there signs this move will persuade the federal government to back off?
Not really, Marcia. Remember, this is a fight over clean electricity regulations that haven't even been finalized yet, and negotiations continue. But contrary to how Premier Danielle Smith portrays it, Natural Resources Minister Jonathan Wilkinson said on Power and Politics last night that the federal government won't require Alberta to shut down all its natural gas plants by 2035.
If you built a natural gas power plant in 2024, it can run unabated until 2044.
And in the meantime, Federal Environment Minister Stephen Guilbeault told reporters yesterday that Alberta's decision to pause new wind and solar projects is costing the province precious time and business opportunities.
Premier Smith has put a moratorium on place, which is jeopardizing $30 billion worth of investment in the province, putting thousands of jobs at risk.
So this is shaping up to be a long and expensive fight for Premier Smith.
Yeah, and one that could find her in court again, and one that's taking her Conservative government in unexpected directions, like saying it would, as a last resort, even nationalize power generation in Alberta, take some of it back from the private sector, if that's what's required to defy these federal rules. When a reporter suggested to Smith that invoking the Sovereignty Act isn't necessary to do this, the Premier pushed back.
But that's not what the Sovereignty Act was supposed to be about.
What did you think the Sovereignty Act was supposed to be about? Of course it was.
Setting aside policy rationale here, invoking it, escalating this fight, appears to be a fundamental political strategy for Smith, which should make things interesting as both the Premier and the Federal Environment Minister head to Dubai in a few days for the United Nations Climate Change Conference.
Thank you, Janice.
You're welcome.
The CBC's Janice McGregor reporting from Ottawa. A significant flight is in the air en route to New York. It is the first transatlantic flight using 100% sustainable aviation fuel. The Virgin Atlantic passenger jet left